All right, so we're recording ourselves just on Zoom. And then, and now I'm gonna do the Facebook part. So this is, I'm gonna need my glasses so I can see when all this stuff pops up on my screen. Okay. All right, let's see what happens here. I'll tell you a funny story when we're done. We were doing it last night as we were trying to test the YouTube repeatedly. And it was a funny, what happened was when I was sharing my Zoom screen with David so we could see what I was doing. And then when we would get through to a live, like on the wrong YouTube page or on the Growth Hacks Facebook page, it did this inception moment, like from the movie with Leo DiCaprio, and it just kept repeating itself, and it kept like going live, going live, going like, so it was like going live like 37 times. It was the weirdest thing ever. But it was because I was sharing the screen and sharing the screen and sharing the screen and sharing the screen.
Did anyone like join yesterday's trial?
Two random friends, yeah.
Like,
all right, hang on. I gotta type in our title here, which is, whoops, hold on. Your 20s. Hold on. So we're not live, don't worry.
I have another question from our audience. Oh, I didn't post it. Damn it.
Yeah.
Meli, súbete una historia con el swipe up.
Ya lo subí, flaca.
¿Ya? Ay,
Ya.
Déjame
ver. Sí, ya está. Ay, no, se quedó allí pendiente. Dame un segundo.
La mía también, no sé por qué. So we're having a little bit of a trouble with the internet right now.
You are? Yeah.
No se sube, se subió de que la primera, pero la segunda ya no. A ver, un segundito que se está subiendo. Ya. Pero se quedó trabado.
Oops, hold on a sec. All right, I'll wait for Andy to tell us she's ready.
Okay.
There we go.
All right. You confident? You ready with your internet?
Yes.
All right.
Just
hang on.
Posting this Facebook thing.
Okie dokie. Let's see what's going on with my Facebook page here. Why is it not letting? There we go. Okay. Ready? All right. We're going to go live.
I think we're live now.
It probably, although it's actually still scrolling through the steps on my end. Hello world, if you're watching, we're just getting set up, getting ready for our event here. Hang tight. Thanks for coming. Let's see if I can see it. Can you see us yet? Okay. There we go. This is always that weird moment where I see myself, seeing myself, seeing myself. Okay. There we go. Okay, so we should be, if you know what, if one of you ladies can check that, we should be live on Facebook.
To go inside Facebook. See if. There we go. I think we are live.
Are we up there? Let's see.
I can see it loading though.
Nice. I'll check on my phone. Yeah, it seems frozen on my, okay, let me. Oh, hold on. Here we go. There we go. We should be live now.
There we go. I think.
Yep, we are. Are we up there? We are.
We are.
Okay.
We are live now.
So now I gotta mute myself on. Hi, everybody. If you're just hanging out, which no one is yet, we're just getting ourselves set up live. Mute any place, Andy, any place you have Facebook open to watch the stream or whatever, to watch the questions, like mute it, make sure, or else you'll hear feedback.
Okay.
Right. So I am going to open the script and condense my video so I can see my partners in crime today over here. It's a little BTS, everybody, a little behind the scenes Hollywood magic today, coming live from Los Angeles. I am right next to Hollywood. It's right, the Hollywood sign is right there. And we're bringing our Hollywood magic to LatAm today. So here we go. Okay, awesome. All right, I can see you guys can see me. We're good. We're live on Facebook, where we are streaming accidentally today because our friends at Google and YouTube just did not want to make our life easier. So I will say that right as we get into the opening. Okay, cool. We're good?
We're good. We're streaming.
We're good.
We're
Awesome.
live.
Okay. Super. All right. So here we go. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Hi. Hello. Hola. Bienvenido. Welcome to the latest event in our ongoing conversation series sponsored by Growth Hacks. We're coming to you today live on Facebook. If you're looking for us, I'll tell you this little disclaimer. If you're looking for us on YouTube this morning at Growth Hacks, GROWTHHAX. Unfortunately, the account there is having some troubles. You will see a video of me welcoming you to that YouTube page this morning, and please helping you to understand to come find us on Facebook Live. But regardless, if you find us on YouTube and you don't want to find us on Facebook Live right now, this recording will be done. It'll be put up in the next couple of days, and we'll share it with all of our communities. So you guys can all watch it like you watch Netflix this weekend, and maybe we'll be the best show that you watch all weekend. So I am super, super excited and grateful. It's kind of an exciting day for me with the Conversation Series event. This is the first episode of season 2 of our Conversation Series, which we launched last year during the pandemic as just another way to connect with and provide interesting conversations and value and education and inspiration to our various communities throughout Latin America and the Latinx entrepreneurial community here in Estados Unidos, where I am. But I'm also really excited because today I've got a co-hostess. That's awesome. Like, I did all the Conversation Series events last year just by myself. So it's already more interesting than it was last year. So I'm really excited to be joined by these 2 super talented young Mexicana entrepreneurs and friends. I've just met Melly. I've got my co-hostess, Andy Racky, who I know super, super well. Ladies, hola, bienvenido.
Bienvenido. Muchas gracias, Rob, por tenernos aquí. Siempre un placer platicar contigo, platicar con la comunidad, compartir y convivir, y sobre todo, we're here to inspire, and this is what we're going to do. So thank you for having us, and I hope this reaches many, many places and many, many people who really need to hear the things we're going to be saying today.
Gee, it's an important conversation we're having, right, Melly?
Sí, yo estoy feliz, encantada. Muchas gracias por permitirme este espacio de conversación que a mucha gente le va a ayudar, pero a nosotros también al compartir nuestras experiencias. Así que feliz de la vida. Gracias, Rob. Gracias, Sandy, por permitirme estar acá. Invitar.
Super excited. So before I turn the event back over to Andy, we're going to let Andy run the show, but I want to tell you a little bit about what to expect for the next 45 to 55 minutes or so. And then I'll tell you a little bit about Growth Hacks and me, and then Andy will run this for the rest of the day. We got some really great questions that got submitted to us by the audience in the week prior to this. And we may have some live questions. If we do, Andy is going to keep a watch on Facebook, and so we'll try and catch those. If we miss any questions, we'll try and answer them in notes after the show as well. So we're grateful for anybody that's watching live and everybody that's going to watch later. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to try and get through the questions as best we can. We've got about 8 or 10 of them or so. And it's really going to just be a conversation between the three of us. Think about it as two peers of yours, right? Gen Z, millennial folks who have the perspective that you all live through every day. And then me coming along as an old Gen Xer and a dad to a millennial here in Estados Unidos. Just
Uncle
to give
Rob,
you,
right?
yeah, right. To give you some context and some kind of like maybe wisdom from the future so that you can maybe be a little less intimidated or uncertain about kind of how life can play out. But also I'm going to use my own example because the root of this event today actually comes from a conversation that Andy and I were having. And Andy and I have known each other for like almost 3 years now.
Yes.
And I said something to her about my own path in my 20s from university to my first startup. And she had no idea that that was true. And so like, then I was like, wait a minute, how do you not know that I spent my entire 20s this way? And she's like, I just thought you were an entrepreneur the whole time. So that was the root of this conversation, the inspiration, we'll say. And so we're going to talk about that. As Andy already said, our goal is really simple for you today. Everything we produce at Growth Hacks is meant to inspire you, right? To give you some hope, some energy, to have you leave this like kind of a little fired up, but most importantly, to educate you, maybe to give you some new context, a different point of view, maybe through some of my older experiences, you get a little bit of knowledge about something that you hadn't thought about before. And then most importantly, to empower you, like to literally leave you so that when you leave with some knowledge and a little bit of energy that then you can go do something with in your life, right? Like I always say when we do events, and I've been blessed that over the last 5 years through our business throughout Latin America, I've given now, we tracked it, it's like 275 or more speeches. And every time my partner and I talk about it and we say, you know, our job is not just to inspire, because just inspiration is like the sugar high from drinking a Coca-Cola. It lasts for like a couple of minutes and then it's gone.
Then it's gone.
Right. And so really you've got to combine it with education and empowerment so that you all can go, and whether you're trying to figure out your career or you're trying to figure out what you're going to do and you're finishing your studies, or you're trying to figure out where you're going to get that job, or you're trying to figure out what your startup should be, like all those things require not just inspiration and positivity and passion and hustle. Like they require some knowledge, and they require like the ability to just continually do the work. So we're going to give you that. We're going to keep an eye on the questions. Andy's going to run that. And now I will tell you a little bit about Growth Hacks, because this is my one blatant opportunity to do a commercial for what we do. So there's a benefit to producing your own content, is you get to do your own commercial, right? So some of you who are familiar with us may already understand that Growth Hacks is a consulting agency in Latin America. And we basically are the behind the scenes partner that helps all of the big institutional organizations, corporates, venture capitalists, universities, governments, NGOs, who are building the entrepreneurial economies of Latin America in your local cities, in Guadalajara, in Bogota, in Medellin, in Buenos Aires, in Cordoba, in Santiago, in Ciudad de Mexico, in Hermosillo, in Puebla, like wherever you might be, we're behind the scenes working with those big institutions locally to help them build more vibrant entrepreneurial economies. Or as we like to say, we're basically in the business of helping all these big organizations do what they're trying to do for you as potential entrepreneurs, but do it better. Like that's the real business we're in like the simplest way. One of the things we do as part of that is that we create a lot of our own content, and we create a lot of partnered content with other people. So you can find us not just in places like today with this conversation series events, which are live streaming long form conversations. So like 45 minutes to an hour, where we dive deep into one topic and we use some video. You can find us on these throughout the course of 2021, about once a month. They'll be posted on our social media. They'll be posted to Facebook Live. They'll stream like this. You can also, though, find us on our podcast, right? So we have a podcast that we branded Mentors Today. We take a very different approach than most podcasts in LatAm. So we don't take the like, let's interview somebody famous or pseudo famous and let them tell us why they're famous or pseudo famous, and then like just like have them interview us on their show about why we're famous or pseudo. Like we don't do that. Like that's totally great. And I love all the people that are doing that, but we're taking a different tack. So we on our podcast, in a shorter format, 30 minutes, dive deep into topics, and we bring experts from all over the world, including LatAm, like top leaders, to discuss those areas. So like this year, for example, we're talking about cryptocurrencies, we're talking about NFTs, we're talking about environmentalists, like climate tech, we're talking about fintech, we're talking about startup storytelling, we're talking about the founder journey, we're talking about sales and marketing. So we're like covering literally about 30 topics, and we drop those every 2 weeks. So you can find those on any podcast platform that you are used to downloading your podcast from. And then the other thing we do, which in the real life pre-pandemic world, we actually did live local events. And now we do these remotely and hybrid as well, obviously, and God willing, as the pandemic slows and as vaccinations increase, like we'll start to be able to get back to doing some of these real live events. But you can find us through what we call mentor mashups, which are basically, think about it this way. Think about like the best mentorship experience you've ever had in any event or any program, mashed up or married to a meetup, right? So it's literally this combination of one-on-one unique mentorship opportunities. So you're not just coming and getting like speed dating mentorship. You're coming to an event online, which, by the way, all of our Guadalajara friends, we're partnering with ituesday.co in Guadalajara and our friend Echu, Jesus Cepeda, to produce one tomorrow night. So you can find that on our social media. You can register today on the Eventbrite link, and you can come and bring your questions about your startup, your growing company, or your entrepreneurial ideas. And you're going to have the chance to rotate around a group of like 5 to 8 different mentors who are going to work with you on ideas like your funding, your marketing, your technology, or just general founder experiences. So we produce those as well. So we're really busy. We're really engaged in LatAm. We're all in on building the future. And that is my passion, right? So a little bit about me, and then I'll shut up and let the ladies take the show for a bit. But I am a 52-year-old gringo, as you can see, who speaks muy poco español, but has spent basically 49 to 50 weeks per year of the last 4.5 years living in and working amongst all of you in LatAm. That's how I met Andy the very first time. I was standing at an event in the background to watch in Monterrey when 2 really super muy importante VIP people grabbed me and said, "Hey, Rob, you want to come and be a judge at the last minute? Like, we need a judge." And I was like, awesome, great. And then the third team that pitched was this startup idea company called Boost. And this young, dynamic CEO spokesperson was out on the stage, and it was Andy, right? And through that moment and follow-up conversations, like we built a relationship. And then I've had the chance to visit with Andy and mentor Andy in Guadalajara, right? When I've been in Guadalajara, and I've traveled throughout Mexico. I've traveled throughout all of the countries of South America, building our business, but most importantly, getting to understand the culture and the opportunity and el futuro de LatAm, not just the past, right? So that's me. This is GrowthX is my 4th startup, so I've been doing this a while. I had launched my first startup, as we're about to talk about today, when I was 29, not when I was 20, not when I was 19 in university. I'm the father of a 27-year-old millennial who works here in Hollywood as a writer's assistant at Sony Studios. And I'm a very, very proud single dad of her. And she is, by the way, my half Mexicana, half gringa child. So I have a long history way back, like 30 years ago, with my first exposure to Mexico. So that's a little bit about me. But now, ladies, please tell everybody about yourselves.
All right, thank you, Rob. Well, first, I would like Melly to introduce herself. Not only is she a very, very talented young lady, but she's also my cousin. So we're like proud family here. Y me encantaría, Melly, que te presentaras tú y que nos contaras un poquito sobre ti, porque eres maravillosa. Cuéntanos.
Ay, gracias. Muchas gracias, Rob. Andy, bueno, pues para platicarles un poquito de mí, mi nombre es Melissa Morelos, vivo en Guadalajara, tengo 23 años y soy casi recién egresada, tengo 1 año de que salí de la universidad y actualmente tengo mi pequeño negocio de pastelerías, o sea, tengo pasteles, a eso me dedico a la cocina y fui ex Masterchef, que para mí ha sido una gran experiencia y también ha sido algo que me ha animado a experimentar y a aventarme mucho más, a al tema, o sea, a la cocina y a cualquier cosa que me he enfrentado. Y estoy encantada y aventurada a esta nueva etapa en mi vida que es el emprendimiento. Entonces, básicamente, esta soy yo, muy cortitito, pero sí.
Buenísimo, muchísimas gracias. Pues para que prueben también los pasteles de Meli porque son una chulada. Y bueno, yo les platico un poquito sobre mí. I'm Andy Ramke. I'm 25. I'm an industrial and automotive designer. I am an entrepreneur as well. I am passionate about entrepreneurship. I am passionate about design, about sharing my experiences. I'm also a teacher. So a lot of what I do comes from working with people and working for the people. So a little bit about me. I'm from Mexico as well, Guadalajara, and that's me in
Awesome.
a very short time.
Awesome. I'm grateful to have, again, it's a lot more fun when there's someone to talk to other than just me and the guest. So this is awesome. Why don't you, hey, I know we have a lot of questions. Why don't you just take the mic and just drive us right into these questions and let's start these conversations.
All right, so the first question we have that we gathered from people from social media, I think is a great question. So someone says, I'm 25, I feel like I made a career mistake. Can I still do something else?
Okay, so I'll throw in my first opinion and then let's debate and discuss, right? So let me give you the quick answer. Yes. Yes, sí, claro, you can completely reinvent yourself. In fact, I'll give you the second real answer. You're still in the early first days of inventing yourself. So it's not even a question of having to reinvent yourself. And then third, I'll give you my specific example. Between ages 19 and 29, 19, I was in university and I took my first job working for my father because my father famously told me that he told my mother, here's the deal. I'm going to recruit you. You're going to come to work for me. I'm going to train you how to build professional relationships. People are going to tell you that I'm basically teaching you how to be a salesman. That's true. Ignore the people. I'm teaching you how to build professional relationships because when you screw up your life, inevitably, which you will in your 20s, I will be able to promise your mother that at the very least, you will be able to get a job. Right? So that was my experience at 19. And between then and 28, 29, when I started my first startup, I had 1, 2, and this is me not rehearsed, thinking live here, 3, 4, 5 jobs. Legit career jobs, not a part-time hobby. I had 5, I went to work for my dad for 3 years. I went to work for a really fast growth technology company for about almost 3 years. I went to work for a software company. I transitioned out of the technology company to a software company where I worked for about 2 years or so. And then I went to work for another software company where I worked for 9 months. Because while I was at that software company, I was already plotting the beginning of our company that we were going to give birth to. And I worked there for 9 months. I sold a bunch of their software. I made a ton of money and I banked that money to basically fund our startup for the first 2 years. So from 19 age to 29, 28, 29, I made 5 complete pivots. And oh, by the way, ladies, on top of all that, at your age, Andy, and I tell you this all the time when I'm trying to remind you to not feel bad about whatever you're going through, at your age, I was married and had a baby who is now my beautiful, talented, self-aware 27-and-a-half-year-old daughter. Right? So if this young person is asking us, hey, at 25, what did the questioner say? At 25, I feel like I made a terrible mistake.
I made a career mistake and I still do something else.
Can I still do something else?
At 25.
Right? What do you think? Can you still do something else at 25?
I think, well, first of all, I think this is not something that just happens to some people. This is something that has to happen to all of us. Es algo que nos pasa a todos en algún momento. Todos pasamos por esta etapa como de frustración, como de no saber qué hacer, como de sentir que la regamos en tomar decisiones. I'm sorry, I'm like changing back from English to Spanish.
It's okay. We're here for the audience. We're not here for me.
Yeah. And I think, yo creo que this is the perfect time to make mistakes, make as many mistakes as you can, and pivot. And, you know, take the most out of everything that you failed. Maybe, I don't know, first startup, first business, first career. And my dad always says, this is a career, you're building a career. This is not like a track race. So, son carreras, no carreritas, ¿no? Entonces, estamos todavía a tiempo, siempre dentro pues estamos en el rango perfecto, los 20, 25, 30 todavía, para tomar todas esas decisiones y hacer los cambios necesarios para alcanzar donde nos sintamos cómodos y donde sintamos que ya es nuestro propósito de vida. Claro que todavía estamos a tiempo de hacer cambios y deberíamos de hacerlos. We should be making constant changes, I believe. I mean, we're working on something today and we have to continue to learn and grow and, you know, maybe shift careers every once in a while.
Sí. Melly.
Es que para mí es súper complicado poderlo decir, porque yo ahorita actualmente soy de esas personas, yo soy de quien hablan, o sea, yo soy esa persona que dice chin, o sea, creo que ya quiero todo rápido, quiero todo ya, lo quiero todo inmediato, quiero resultados para mañana, o sea, y siento que esa parte no me permite como poner atención a las cosas que realmente están pasando en el momento y aprender de ellas, para quizás buscar alternativas y cambiarlas para ir modificando, ir creciendo y entonces encontrar aquel objetivo. Y es quitarnos el miedo al fracaso, porque es de los peores miedos que tenemos todos en común, el fracaso. Y lejos de buscarlo o lejos de entenderlo como algo malo, entenderlo como un proceso para crecer, no un proceso para no dejar que las cosas funcionen, sino todo lo contrario, el haber caído te permite levantarte con más fuerza y con más entendimiento de que tienes que poner atención en distintas cosas para lo que viene. Entonces,
claro, creo que se trata de caerse hacia adelante, ¿sabes? Te vas a caer inevitablemente. You're going to fall inevitably. You have to, you know, fail forward. You have to fall forward and, you know, bounce forward and continue and keep going.
I think let me give like two like kind of useful tips this person can think of when they listen to this or go on with their life tomorrow, right? And before we dive into the next one, think about, I think something you said, I'll say it in English, like think about your career as a portfolio, right? Like, so for the designers in our group or for the restaurateurs in our group, like if you're going to open up multiple restaurants over the course of any career, right? Like you may have a particular type of food that you're expert in that you love, but like if you're in the business of restaurants, like you're going to open up multiple concepts and they're going to be in different places and serve different audiences, right? And if you're a designer, your whole thing, Andy, is about building a portfolio, right? Like different types of design, different applications, different use cases, different products, right? I have found in my life, the thing that makes me most interesting to people, and this is what they tell me, not what I say, like they say is most interesting about me at this age is this crazy wide diversity of experiences that I've accumulated. The thing that people ultimately are paying us for in our consulting business is largely the crazy diversity of experiences that I've had, right? So at a certain moment, like when we're young, we're afraid that like, oh my God, I have to become an expert at one thing, and then I have to spend my entire life being that. And by the way, I don't know where this questioner was from geographically or culturally, but I'll make a comment here because I can do this as the old gringo guy. Like, if that questioner was a Mexican, there's a part of the Mexican culture which is very much still today like the American culture was in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, which was very much get a job, have a family, have a white fence around your yard, have the car, and just do that for 40 years until you retire and go by the beach. And that's just not life anymore. That's just, all due respect, that's just a bullshit narrative that just isn't true anymore, right? So I think for anybody worrying about it at 25, think about it more like, hey, I have to build a portfolio, right? I think that's the huge takeaway lesson. So That's awesome. Good, great question.
Definitely. Another question that we got from our audience was, and I like this one very much, how do I become an entrepreneur with very little time? Say for around like 100 to 110 hours labor a week.
Okay, first of all, okay, so let's think about that. What we don't know, are they saying like, hey, I have like 100 hours available in my life total, right? And I have a job.
I think they're saying they have a labor week of 100 and 110
Right,
hours.
total,
Oh,
right? So if, yeah, and like 60 of that or 50 of that is probably my day job,
yeah.
right? So how do I become an entrepreneur? So it's a great question. And it's a question that and this answer applies honestly anywhere anybody is watching this, right? So this isn't just applicable to LatAm. There's this mythology that also exists about this idea that you have to be like super singularly focused as an entrepreneur, right? Like you and I met and you were working on a project which has since been closed down and you've moved on from it, right? And that's actually the normal course. Like from experience and the larger world of entrepreneurship, the data shows us that when you look back, like oftentimes we will move from, you know, project to project to project before we find the ones that we really focus on. But to this really specific example, I'll say this. I think an underappreciated, much under discussed truth for most entrepreneurs is that we start on the side. It's a side proyecto to our day job, right? So there's a lot of narrative in all cultures, developing world culture of entrepreneurship, and then especially in the developed world, like, hey, you know, singularly focus, you know, get the money that you need and then go focus on that. And that's just not proving to be true. Like even some of the best, most funded by venture capitalists, like quote unquote, most successful startups that we see, if you really go back to their real origin stories, the founder had their day job where they were making great money and like had a stable career for 2, 3, 4 years, right? While they were working to build up their customers or build up revenue. And my very specific coaching on this point is if you do that, if you took that path, then what you want to look at is you want to look at like the math equation, so to speak, of the economics of your life. And if you say like, here's my day job, right? And my day job earns me X amount of money, or my primary project, or whatever it is, that this is how I pay my living. As I say in English, like this is how I pay the rent. This is how I pay my light bill, right? And then I've got this side proyecto, which for the most part is never going to earn anything in the very, 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 very beginning, right? And so I'm going to build this up. And if you're looking for like yeah, Rob, but okay, so I get it. Okay, I have limited time. I can spend 20 or 30 hours a week or 10 hours a week or whatever it is that's available. And I can build it up. But then what happens? When do I make the cutover, right? And that's this math equation, right? Which is when you can get to a point where your business is producing maybe the same amount of income or revenue, or maybe it's close, but it's a little bit less. But it's enough, it's close enough where you look at it and you say, okay, I'm this close, I'm 60% of the way there. But I know that if I put in 100% of my time, and I lived maybe really, really meagerly for a period of 6 months, but I put in 100% of my time, I'm going to be able to jump above it. And then I'm home free, as we would say in English. So again, I think the idea, start wherever you are, just start.
Yeah.
Like if you've got a real problem you see, or a passion or something that you want to work on, start small, start in the free time you have available. Don't ruin your relationships with your wife or your husband. Don't ruin your relationships with your kids. Like still have it, but like start small. And then if you're thinking, okay, once I start growing, when do I cut over? Look for that equation and think about that equation. That's my best advice I can give to that question.
Definitely. Thank you. Well, I'm someone who's very, very, very aware of time, and I value time a lot. That's why I'm like super punctual. Like you have to, like, time is the most valuable thing that we have, the most valuable resource. And I think you have to make the best out of it every moment. So if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, you have time, you have energy, and what you have the least we could say is money, right? But it's when you have the most valuable resource, which is time, you know, in great amounts. So this is when you have the opportunity to start to build something, because you have time and you have energy. And I think we can cut back some expenses, as you said, if you're still living with your parents, if you're still, I don't know, maybe living with roommates, you can lay back on some expenses and really be focused. And this is a matter of, you know, passion and really wanted to build something out of your 10 or 15 years when you have those very valuable resources.
Sí, 100% agree.
¿Tú qué opinas, Meli?
Perdón, no estaba escuchando.
Sobre ser un emprendedor, cómo convertirte en un emprendedor con muy poquito tiempo. Digo, tú lo hiciste de alguna manera, tú estabas estudiando al mismo tiempo que empezaste más bien cuéntanos un poquito como tu experiencia personal, cómo lo hiciste tú manejando la escuela y empezando la pastelería. Igualmente tu hermana, que es tu co-founder, pues ella sigue estudiando y trabaja en la pastelería. Entonces, ¿ustedes cómo le hacen, por ejemplo?
Es algo divertido, creo yo, porque tienes que ajustar tus tiempos y priorizar ciertos aspectos. Con mi cofundadora, que es mi hermana, nos dividimos el tiempo y tenemos la oportunidad, porque yo trabajo aparte, yo realmente soy creadora de contenidos de videos, o sea, yo hago videos de cocina para las empresas y ese es como mi sueldo base más alto. O sea, si ponemos en comparación, como decía Rob, lo que gano en uno y lo que gano en otro, bueno, no tiene ni siquiera punto de comparación, o sea, es muy alto, a diferencia de la pastelería. Pero cada vez que le vamos dedicando más tiempo, se va compensando. Y no fue nada sencillo poder distribuir los tiempos de manera eficaz. Esa base de experiencia, conforme tú vas viendo cómo funciona tu tiempo, el tiempo de los demás, vas diciendo, ok, va. A veces hago pasteles y luego me arreglo y hago videos, y dividir tu tiempo en aquellas cosas que tienen prioridad. O sea, ahorita mi prioridad quizás son los videos y la parte de abajo es la pastelería, porque la demanda que hay en uno y la demanda que hay en otro pues es muy distinta en cuestión a tiempo y en dinero. La ventaja que yo tengo es que mi hermana también está también en esta parte, ¿no? Cuando yo no estoy, hay alguien atendiendo el negocio. Entonces, eso permite que jamás se trunque, porque yo no lo ignoro. Hay alguien que siempre le está poniendo atención, ya sea yo, ya sea ella, ya sea que yo esté poniéndole atención y ella esté en la escuela, o yo estoy trabajando, haciendo los videos y ella está en la pastelería, pero jamás le quitamos la atención. Entonces, creo que al estar las dos a la par, siempre estamos trabajando en ello y no lo dejamos rezagado. No ha sido nada fácil, nada fácil, pero ha sido una experiencia interesante porque nos ha ayudado a distribuir de mejor manera nuestro tiempo y así optimizarlo y 100% enfocarnos. Una vez que estamos en la pastelería, es 100% la pastelería y saber dividir una cosa de la otra.
Yo creo que esto es súper importante, Rob. I think this is very important because as a solo entrepreneur, it's way harder to do this and to deal with the time. And she's telling us how she can manage it because she's working with her sister.
Yeah.
So teaming up is key, right?
No, it's like, again, like combine the 3 lessons together, right? And we just gave every aspiring young entrepreneur with limited time kind of a little bit of a playbook. Right. So I'm giving you kind of the map for how to think about the math. Like you're coming along and saying, like, giving further context, and then Melly's adding in this idea of like, yeah, like balance the workout, find a co-founder, find a partner to, you know, don't worry about the titles and stuff. Just find someone that wants to help you build what it is you're trying to build, and then divide the labor. No, it's awesome. Awesome advice. These are such fundamental questions. And what I love about them, and they're meaningful and unique to the people that ask them, but I can respectfully say, like, these are the questions that I hear repeatedly, right? Every day in my social media and my DMs and my WhatsApps. And it's when we used to travel pre-pandemic and in the speeches and the events. And so these are awesome representative questions of what Gen Z is going through and younger millennials are going through right now in LatAm and everywhere, really. So awesome.
Great. I think you're going to really like this question, Rob. So it says, how much planning do you need to become an entrepreneur? Is it easy falling into eternal planning?
Ooh, that's a you know what? That's a really good question. I think the obvious answer is, to the second part of the question is yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super easy to just constantly tweak and fix and edit, and like it's got to be perfect, right? And you don't need me to tell you there's all those famous memes and gifs and phrases out there from really famous authors and speakers that talk about just do, right? Plan less, do more, right? Like edit less, publish more, hit send. So that's, I think that's 100% true. Having said that, like, have a plan. Like, have a basic plan. Like, I mean, I'll without going into a whole lot of detail, I'll use the growth hacks example. It's been a crazy, normally crazy, like, adventure and journey for 4.5 years, really almost 5 years now, I guess. Sorry, I forgot it's 2021. I keep forgetting about 2020, but like, we've gone like this, right? For those on video, right? You can see my hands, right? Like, we've been that, and then back, and then over, and then back, and then stop, and then start, and 4 steps forward and 2.5 steps back, and sometimes like 19 steps back and only 1 step forward. And yet here's what I take like great comfort in. And I just said this to my business partner 2 weeks ago. In spite of it all, and 2020 was a really terribly difficult, like, almost punishing, like, why am I doing this kind of year? And yet through it all, when I was like, hey man, our vision, like our original plan for what the problem is that we believe we're helping solve and how we think we can do it, we haven't actually veered from that. Like, so, I often use a bowling, like, it's a fun sport.
Yeah.
Like, I often use a bowling lane as an analogy, right? There's like the bumpers on the side, and there's all this space in the middle. And it doesn't really matter if the ball kind of goes, like, as long as the ball gets to the pins at the end, like, that's the ultimate end journey. And so to me, like, I stood at the front of the bowling lane, and I'm like, that's what I see about growth hacks' relevance in LatAm. But between then and today, we've been all over the lane. We've gone into the gutter, jump back out of the gutter, right? So yeah, I think plan. Don't spend your life planning. If you've got something you want to try and do, especially nowadays, Andy, you said it before, like, there's so many things available nowadays, right, to younger people of any age, really, like resources, tools. It's the cheapest time to ever start a startup. And it's with all this, the creator economy and all these tools. And I mean, there's a million ways for people to launch an idea, or publish a post, or create videos, or, I mean, you can TikTok, Clubhouse, Telegram, Twitter Spaces, Facebook, I mean, there's so many different things. Instagram, there's so many ways you can create nowadays. Create, like, try stuff. And then, as you said before, you're going to fall down. Like you said in the first question, like, you're going to fall down faster, like, fall down and then get up, and fall down and get up. Like, don't be worried about falling down and spend all this time creating these big, massive business plans. That's my humble opinion.
Yeah, I mean, this is basic design thinking, right? So, and our book, start with why. Maybe you could do that sort of planning. Start with why you want to do this, what's your purpose, and then plan from that. Like, all right, why do I exist? What do I want to do? And then how do I do it, right? And then from that planning, you said it, where I want to go in 10, 20, 30 years. And then whatever path I take to achieve that goal doesn't matter. Maybe you could go through terrace, maybe you could go through water, maybe you could go through anything, but as long as you keep going towards that goal and shifting and adapting to changes in economy and everything that goes around the world, and pandemics and everything that comes along, you just got to go with the flow and be able to maybe reframe and restructure your plans. It happened to me just a couple of months ago. Remember, I had a plan. I had a very, very sharp plan, and everything was going according to it. And then everything fell out of, track, and I was lost. I was feeling lost, and I reached out to Rob, and I said, you know what, I'm just not feeling it. I'm not getting where I want to get.
I mean, I'm not speaking out of turn, like, but you literally felt like the whole point was like, I'm in the lane and I'm supposed to stay on the lane. And now I'm in the gutter and I'm the bowling ball. And oh God, like, am I just destined to stay in the gutter for the rest of my life? Right. And it's like, no, like the bowling ball didn't stop moving. Like it's still moving. Like just jump back onto just get back in the lane and then we'll figure it out. Right. But for a couple of days you were stuck in the gutter, metaphorically, right? Like you were stuck in the gutter for a couple of days and you were really freaked out that like that was permanent.
Yeah.
And I, as you just really articulately said, and Melly was saying in her prior answer, like nothing is permanent.
No.
Nothing is, I mean, like
todo pasa, todo es efímero y tienes que estar dispuesto a recibir, a adaptarte al cambio y tomar lo mejor de take the best out of every shitty situation and then come out of it.
See, and if we didn't believe that, if we were so self-assured or overconfident to believe that we had it figured out and that our path was permanent, we knew what we were doing in December of 2019, January of 2020, February of 2020, the first week of March of 2020 blew that up. And in a very humbling way, I hope. The pandemic has been a terrible, tragic, sad scourge on humanity. So many people have died. So many people have gotten sick. So many people have lost their careers and their businesses and their savings. I mean, it's the great tragedy of my lifetime. It will be, period. But if we haven't learned the lessons from it, shame on us.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so this is actually an incredible moment. And I just told a class at the University of San Diego this yesterday. First year, second year, third year, and fourth year students in international business in Estados Unidos, in California. And they're all worried about the same stuff we're talking about today. And I told them, and they thought I was crazy. I said, this is the greatest time ever to be your age.
Yeah.
And they were like, what? It's a pandemic. Like, there's so many unknowns. There's like, I don't understand the path ahead. Like, I can't see it clearly. I was like, trust me, when we come out, like for the ones that are still in school, I was like, you have the greatest safety net ever. Like, you're just hiding in school while the world goes to shit. But when you come out of school, the world is going to be back firing on all cylinders. And it's going to have learned some lessons. And you're going to have learned it all from like the free cheap seats. And you're going to be able to jump in and be like, I'm here to help. Like, let's go. Right. And if you're graduating, all this disruption, if you're graduating this year and heading out next year, yeah, it's going to be a little difficult for a year or two, especially in Mexico or Latino America. It's going to be a little, let's be honest, it's going to be difficult for the next 1, 2, 3 años. 100%. But as it comes up, again, you're in your 20s. This is the time to fail. This is the time to fall. This is the time to not worry about that. It might be taking a little bit longer for Andy's plan to come together. Like, have these problems when you're between 19 and 29, not when you're 45 or 35 or 60, right? Like the transitions I made in my life to reinvent myself for yet the third or fourth time when I was 45, 46 years old. I'm not like doing this, although I should sometimes like be more proud of myself. But the truth is that that's like unicorn stuff. Like people don't reinvent the way I've reinvented at age 45 and 46. Like that's, so you want to try and embrace reinventing when you're in your 20s, right? Like I was just stumbling around when I was I was like a drunk bowling ball, just kind of going down the lane. Like I had, all I knew, the only thing I knew in my 20s, Andy and Melly and our audience, the only thing I knew for sure in my 20s was that I wanted to go forward. That's it. I had no plan to substantiate that. I had no vision. I literally just knew I wanted to go forward towards something, like, which was mostly just a very American 1980s, 1990s kind of model when, you know, Wall Street with Gordon Gekko was a popular movie and it was like, greed is good. And so only thing I was thinking about going forward to was like, I wanted to make a lot of money and like buy stuff. And that was it. right? And yet, like, I continually reinvented. So if today, if we can impress upon people, or like when I talk to you, right, like as friends, if I can impress upon you to use your 20s like more experimentally and more creatively and more like almost kind of knowing that you really, really don't actually have anything to lose in your 20s, even though you think you do, I think that would be the greatest lesson we could pass along.
Wow.
Now, I was just like letting it sink in before I said anything.
I'm glad with like 15 or 16 minutes left, I'm glad that there was one big wild moment in there. That's awesome.
Tenía que dejar como que la información se asentara un poco y lo voy a
Sí.
continuar. Porque es algo que 100%, pues estamos
And I don't
ahorita
even,
en este momento.
hey, I don't even drink anymore. So imagine me with a couple of beers in me. Woo!
We only have coffee, right? I mean, you and I
just,
together.
I'm a professional water and iced tea drinker now for about a year. So, all right. So what else? Any other good questions?
I'm gonna jump into another question.
And let's do maybe like a little bit more rapid fire answers, right? So we make sure
Right.
we get as many questions as we can.
All right. So next question: is it really necessary to have a mentor?
Woo! Okay, hold on. Hello.
That's
right.
your wow moment.
So quick. I'll give the quick answer. Nothing in your professional life as an employee or as an entrepreneur is necessary. 100% no. There's nothing that's necessary, right? You have to find your own path. I can tell you from experience, it's super helpful. I will tell you whether it's a peer, whether it's a friend your same age, whether it's someone with a little bit more experience, whether it's someone much older, like my nickname in LatAm, Tio Rob, right? Like whether it's that, or it's a parent, or it's a professor. Yes, it's useful, right? Because there's just so much of life that you can, the phrase I used yesterday with the kids in San Diego was like shortcut the struggles, right? So you're not going to avoid the struggles, but if I can help you shortcut them so that you don't spend the same number of years or same amount of time that I did struggling, then that's the great gift, right? So it's the gift of the mentor to be able to pass it on. But yeah, for you, it's not necessary, but it's a pretty good idea.
Awesome.
What do you think?
You said
it's necessary?
also it could be a friend, right? And I say this all the time. I mean, yo trato, bueno, de buscar personas que estén como en el mismo entorno del emprendimiento, que me puedan apoyar, tanto una persona como Rob, una persona que tiene más experiencia, que tiene conocimientos, que tiene contactos, etcétera, pero también apoyarme con otras personas que están emprendiendo, como Meli, como mis amigos, como mis alumnos, y seguir como que creciendo entre nosotros, porque nosotros estamos a lo mejor viviendo un momento diferente al que vivió nuestro mentor de mayor edad. Entonces, nos apoyamos entre nosotros, nos compartimos experiencias, y un mentor puede ser cualquier persona con la que tú te sientas confiado de hablar y que te aporte algo de valor a cambio, creo yo. ¿Qué opinas, Meli? Tú y yo nos hemos echado muchas pláticas de negocios.
Sí, yo creo que buscar a alguien o de tener a alguien que te esté guiando en todo no es tan sano, porque al final de cuentas la parte de un emprendedor creo que es tan instintiva y tan personal que es difícil que alguien te guíe al 100%. La parte de los consejos, o sea, el lugar de los consejos de una sola persona es lo que tú dices, consejos de distintas personas para tú crear entonces tu criterio y empezar a buscarle de donde mejor te convenga, donde tú realmente ves cierto, como que, quiero decir, que tenga más congruencia acorde a lo que tú necesitas, no una sola persona, sino muchas. Tu entorno es el que realmente te va a ayudar a darte una noción de por dónde darle, de por dónde ir, eso es lo que yo sí creo. Un mentor no es necesariamente quien te lleva o te guía al éxito, sino aquellas personas con las cuales te inclinas o le confías a aquellas cosas que a ti te son una incógnita para poderlas resolver, pero son varias, un entorno más que uno solo.
Así, dicen que somos una mezcla de las 5 personas con las que más nos juntamos y yo creo que es 100% real. O sea, tenemos que juntarnos con gente que nos empuje, con gente que nos motive, con gente que nos inspire y a la que le podamos aprender. Right, Rob? So they say we're a combination of the 5 people that we hang around with the most.
Sí. Yeah, which basically makes me like a millennial Gen Z Mexicana, apparently.
You are, right? That's what you are.
Like apparently, I got told by somebody yesterday, like, hey, stop it, you're a Latino. I was like, okay, thank you. That's awesome. That's great.
Now I'm gonna call you Roberto.
Sí, well, so, mi ex esposa for 4 años said Robertito, which was ironic because I'm like 6'3" tall and she was like 4'11". So it was like.
All right, so next question.
Yeah,
He says, how to beat the statistic in Mexico of 8 out of 10 businesses failing?
Yeah, great question. And I hate to break it to the person that asked, but that's not just the statistic in Mexico. That's just business. Like worldwide businesses, whether we be pymes or you know, high growth startups, regardless, the failure rate is about 80%. Over the course of, I think it's measured over the course typically of like 3 years. So by
also in the US?
Everywhere. It's global. See, yeah. So that's what I say. So maybe the good news is to this person, hey, this isn't just a Mexico economy issue. Like you're not alone. The reality is it's really hard, as Melly knows, as everybody knows, it's really hard muy difícil to launch a business and sustain it to growth stage. So again, back to the original theme, when you fail, like let it go. You know, like Frozen, let it go. Like just like just let it go, right? Like it happens literally to, if there's 10 people standing on the corner on Chapultepec in Zona Americana in Guadalajara or in Condesa in the Hippodromo, if there's 10 people that started a business, 3 years later, 8 of them are going to hit failed. So it's okay.
All right. So we have another question, and this one is from one of my students. He
Awesome.
says, he just said, I just feel lost in this moment. That wasn't even a question.
Hey, no, but that's, hey, but you know what? Hey, good for, it's a him, it's a boy. Like,
Yeah.
First of all, good for him for being honest. Second of all, good for a young Mexicano for being like self-aware and comfortable enough to just admit that in public.
Yeah.
Because he just told you and you just told the world, right?
Sorry.
That this young man is like lost in his moment right now.
Yeah.
Here's the good.
I think he's not the only one. Maybe he's the only one to
Right?
admit it, but everyone at his age and every single one of my students is lost in this moment.
And let's normalize that.
Yeah.
As we would say. Right? So let's tell him and then all of his friends and all of your estudiantes, anybody that's listening, you should not have it figured out. You know, the reason, and I say this very lovingly, the whole reason that we're doing this event right now with Melly's help is because Andy and I had a very serious series of conversations about Andy's life at a moment last year when it was particularly difficult. And I used my own examples to remind her that she was going to be fine.
So you guys, this is all therapy for me.
Right? So the reality is, and she said to me like a couple days later, oh my God, I feel like that's like a conversation we should share with a lot more people. And then I said, hey, I have the platform. Let's do that. Right? I mean, because this is the reason we're here today. Right? I am an entrepreneur now at 52 years old who's had 4 different businesses and basically with little pieces in between, like been an entrepreneur since I was 29, 30 years old. Right? But those first 10 years of my career, when I was in university, I just told you 20 minutes ago, I had no plan. I had no idea. I was an okay student. And frankly, you know what? That's bullshit. I'm a really, really intelligent student academically who was generally pretty lazy because I could be. I should have been an A student throughout my life. I am mentally, intellectually capable of that. No one ever pushed me to demand that I was that. And so I just decided I didn't need to be because that was a lot of extra work. and I could do a lot less work and get a B, and everybody still hugged me and loved me and told me I was awesome. But then I had a lot more time to like go play basketball, which is really all I ever wanted to do until I was about 22, and hang out with my friends. Right? So if you're lost, if that's literally the feeling in your heart that you have right now at age 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 25, 30, like, it's okay. It's okay. The most important thing that you can do to find your way out of that lost feeling, you just did, buddy. Whoever you are, I hope you're listening, or I hope you watch this later, because I'm telling you, I'm looking into the camera like, you just did the most important thing you need to do. You told someone that you were lost. And in fact, you told your teacher, who you respect and admire, obviously. That's the first step. Now you know you're not alone. Now you know that even like the old gringo who, you know, everybody thinks the old gringos are all successful, like, right, which is crazy, right? But like, now you know that I could say I was lost, and I was lost for a lot longer. Hell, I was lost while I was married having a baby, right? So like, the best thing you could do, young man, is you just did it. So awesome. You're having a fucking great day already, because you just did the hardest thing you will do maybe this year. You just told a bunch of strangers that you're struggling and you're feeling lost. So I'm super grateful that you shared that. It only gets better from today forward.
Definitely. And you said to me a couple of days ago that sometimes the reward you get is to just, you know, wake up. That was wake up and get out of bed. That was, you know, your accomplishment of the day. And sometimes that's enough.
Sometimes that's it. Sometimes sometimes the greatest thing in my life, and Melly, I'd love to hear like your feedback on this. Like, sometimes for me, the greatest moment is like my walk that I go on for 4 or 5 miles, you know, just to get fresh air and sunshine and clear my head. Sometimes it's a deal with a business. Sometimes it's something with my partner. Sometimes it's a moment like my daughter had a couple days ago in her personal life. But like, some days it's literally just going, hey, I'm alive. I'm healthy. Lots of people, and we know, especially right now in Mexico, right? And in Latino America, there are lots of people we know that were alive months ago or a year ago in our families, in our families' families, in our friends' families, that aren't alive anymore. That like literally don't get to wake up because of the pandemia, or that are sick and can't get out of bed because they can't breathe well enough because their lungs were so yeah, like, sometimes it's okay to just have a day where it's just okay to just be okay. We don't have to conquer the world every day.
¿Qué piensas, Meli, al respecto?
Wow. Ay, qué padre escuchar como todo esto, sobre todo porque creo yo que en algún momento, si no es que actualmente nos sentimos perdidos por lo que sea, ¿no? Y simplemente es seguir, o sea, creo que es nunca dejar de intentar. El rendirse no es una opción, jamás, porque o sea, es por el sentido de vivir, ni siquiera es como por el sentido de ser exitoso. Realmente el motor que tú encuentras para seguir y para crecer, para llegar a ser quien de algún momento deseas ser, que no tienes ni idea de cómo lo vas a hacer. Yo creo que no es que no sepas qué quieres ser, es que no sabes cómo le vas a hacer o qué es lo que tienes que hacer para llegar ahí. Creo que es ahí cuando realmente nos sentimos perdidos. O sea, ¿y ahora cómo le hago para llegar allá? Y si realmente no sé cuál es el método perfecto para llegar allá, ¿sabes? Y es ahí cuando decimos, ¿cuál es el camino? ¿Cómo le voy a hacer? Y no sabemos que el camino es simplemente seguir caminando y agarrar las oportunidades. De pronto decían que cuando nosotros planeamos algo tanto, ten por seguro que quizás el 90% de las veces no va a salir como tú quieras. Es mejor agarrar las situaciones y aprovecharlas y ahí poco a poco ir construyendo. No te preocupes, las cosas van a salir, siempre salen. Las cosas siempre salen, simplemente ya la actitud que tú tomes ante esa situación es la que va a hacer la diferencia. No importa, no tienes absolutamente nada que rendirle a nadie más que a ti y vas a estar bien No importa qué es lo que hagas, siempre y cuando eso que hagas te haga feliz en el proceso. Y eso sí, o sea, no te pierdas en el camino para voltear a todas partes y enfócate. Una vez que encuentres algo con lo que te sientas seguro, enfócate, focus y vas para adelante. Pero el sentirte perdido es de las sensaciones del día a día, no es como que se te quite mañana de que un día amanecí y ya soy otra y pum, cambias. Simplemente es, sigue tu vida, lo vas a encontrar. Tarde o temprano lo vas a encontrar.
Something that has helped me, and actually you told me to do this, Rob, when I'm feeling down, when I'm feeling lost, when I'm feeling, out of place, is to just find one thing that I'm grateful for that day. And then that's like my one motive, right? And it could be anything. It could be just like health, it could be family, it could be my, I don't know, career pursuit, it could be anything. Just find something that I'm grateful for in that moment, and that's my drive.
100%. That's awesome. That's awesome. Great
Right.
perspective from both of you.
Thank you. So you want to go on to another question, or do we?
No, let's kind of wrap it up a little bit,
Right.
and then what we'll do is we promise if we didn't get to your questions either from Facebook or social media or from the advanced questions, we'll try and go back on the recording link in the and we'll try and post some answers and feedback.
Awesome. So Rob, before we close this up, I would like for you to share with us 3 things that you would like to use to summarize this amazing panel conversation thingy that we had here today, and for our audience to take away and begin applying in their lives.
Awesome. We covered a lot of ground. I mean, right? Life in your 20s is
hard.
Man, it's a roller coaster adventure, right? It's maybe the fullest, craziest time in our lives. I've lived through my 20s, my 30s, my 40s, and now I'm just early in my 50s, and I got this whole pandemic thing going on now. So I'm really excited for the next 30 years of my life, but what you guys are living through in your 20s is just an incredible time. So I think if we squeeze everything that got discussed today down, and if I was a 20-something-year-old or in university right now, I'd be rewatching this video and taking notes. Right?
To all my students, you have homework, right?
Right, exactly. But if we narrow it down, I really heard a couple of big themes that kind of tied all this stuff together. And this is just my opinion of what I thought those themes were, right? So one, I think this portfolio approach to building your career or your experience profile, right? So call it your life CV or your life resume, whatever you want to call it, right? I think this portfolio approach in your 20s should be a driving force. Like, think more about how you can build and collect experiences, successes, failures, new learnings, new people, new places, new industries, different perspective. Think about how you can spend 10 years doing that, as opposed to think about how you've got to be in a hurry to get into the first supposedly only thing and just do that for the rest of your life. So that I think this portfolio approach is lesson 1. Lesson 2 that I really heard maybe more subtly underneath or in between a lot of the things that we all said, surround yourself with good people. Like, make it part of your responsibility on a daily, weekly basis to, with intention and purpose, attract and build good relationships. Right? Something that someone sent to me this morning, like from a personal life point of view, reminded me that people are seasonal in our lives, just like seasons are. And we have this, I think, a human instinct, at least I do. I'll talk about we have this human instinct to, like, when we meet people and we build like friendly relationships or professional relationships, or I haven't done this in a long time, but like romantic relationships, right? That we're supposed to like meet this person and then like hold on to that person forever. And then when that doesn't happen, the reaction to that not happening causes us all kinds of stress and fear and anger and emotion. And I think what we really need to learn, especially in our 20s, is that we're collecting people, and then some people are going to be seasonal in our lives. Like, we'll be blessed that there will be some people that we will collect, or that will collect us, that will stick like glue forever. And that's a blessing, but that's the unicorn. That's the exception. I think the useful tool for building our careers, building our portfolios of life, is to surround ourselves with interesting, good, smart, loving, empathetic humans of all ages and shapes and sizes and colors and backgrounds, and then lean into them when you have your wins and your enthusiasms about things you're excited about, and then when you have your losses and your fears, right? So I think that's the second thing. Portfolio approach. The second thing, surround yourself with good people. Third thing, and this is going to sound silly because people are like, well, how? That's too obvious, right? Like that's not specific enough. Be patient. Life is going to go one of two ways. And the first way is going to sound kind of dark, but only guaranteed, life is going to go one of two ways. You are either going to sadly die very, very early in life unexpectedly, or you're going to live for a really, really long time. You can't control either. So just be patient. Don't force it. Let it come. Enjoy it while it does. Have a bit of a plan. Like more of like a idea of kind of, I'd like to go that direction. And then just go. But be patient with yourself. You know, the underlying thesis of, I think, this entire episode today is, you know, this, especially for entrepreneurs, this mythology of the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, right? I thought of this idea when I was 19. I started it in my dorm room with my friends, and, you know, that's all I've ever done. And by 25, I was a billionaire. Okay, no offense to Zuck, who maybe he's a nice guy, maybe he's not. I don't know. I've never met him. But that's a nonsense story. That is no more of like a story that you could repeat like intentionally than saying like, I want to be, you know, Dr. Seuss because I read a Dr. Seuss story one day. Like, it's just that is the shooting star that flies across the sky. And none of us on planet Earth can say like, my plan is to be a shooting star and here are the steps. Like, that's nonsense. Like, that's just the lottery ticket, right? So don't build your expectations for yourself around that kind of an absurd example that is shown to us every day in our media. Just be patient with yourself. Be yourself. Find yourself. I'm 52. I'm still figuring it out. I told a friend the other day who's in her 50s, I hope to God that I live till 85. Like, that's my goal. And I hope at 85, on my deathbed, wherever I am, surrounded by whomever I'm talking to, I hope that day someone is in the room who's probably at that time, like in their 20s. I don't know what they'll be called then generationally, like generation whatever in the like the year 2050. But like, I hope someone in that room when I'm 85 and I've got like a couple of hours left to live is teaching me something about something that I never knew until that moment. So at 85, I think I'm still going to be figuring it out. When I was in my 20s, I thought I had it all figured out. I was in such a hurry to be everything that everybody wanted me to be and what I wanted to be. And I had no fucking idea what I was talking about. I had no idea what I was doing when I started my first startup. And yet I convinced investors to invest $3 million in us. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, right? So if I'm still figuring it out and I'm okay, I'm alive, I'm going to be able to eat a good lunch today, I've got great friends, I'm producing interesting content, we're building a business. If I'm still figuring it out, man, when you're in your 20s, just be patient. Take some of that pressure off yourselves. That's my 3 things.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob, so much. So I'm gonna close up this conversation. I just want to say, you guys, don't be so hard on yourselves. Enjoy the ride and be grateful. And that's it. Right. So thank you, Meli, for being here with us.
Gracias, Meli.
No, gracias a ustedes. Que yo creo que lo veo tal cual como un privilegio escucharlos, porque, híjole, la experiencia que tienen y la forma en la que hablan, en la que se expresan es completamente motivacional, o sea, es inspiración pura. Gracias, muchas gracias a todos los que nos están viendo. Pues nada, de verdad, gracias. No me quedo más que con eso. Y bueno, y me quedo con muchas cosas más, pues, pero en cuestión de agradecimiento, eso es lo que quiero decir. Gracias, porque eso va a englobar todo lo que siento en esta platicadita, que todos los demás también van a tener la oportunidad de ver y que ellos también sean partícipes de que somos seres humanos, de que nos equivocamos y que está bien hacerlo. Está bien y que simplemente que se trepen esta aventura, que es de las más divertidas, y que el mundo es para los atrevidos y que a final de cuentas nos vamos a arrepentir 10,000 veces más de lo que no hacemos a de lo que hacemos. Entonces, que sin miedo al éxito, dice por ahí el meme, sin miedo al éxito, tal cual.
El mundo es de los aventados, chavos.
100%.
Y ya para cerrar, no se olviden de seguirnos en redes sociales. Don't forget to follow us on social media, here on Facebook, on YouTube at Growth Hacks, and on Instagram at Growth Hacks as well. Also Twitter, and we have mentors today. Well, Rob has mentors today, and you can find him on social media as at I am Rob Ryan. Entonces vamos a dejar aquí las redes sociales también para que los sigan, para que nos sigan a nosotros y que platiquemos, que sigamos el diálogo, que si tienen cualquier pregunta, pues nos busquen, porque estamos ahí para ayudar, porque eso es lo que hacemos y lo que nos encanta hacer y compartir con ustedes. De nuevo, gracias. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching, for being here. This has been amazing, and I know the discussion that we had here today will inspire, educate, and empower everyone who listens to it now or later over their time. And thank you again, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you. Ciao.
Bye.